before, we tried to do that. This happened more than once, but we pushed it next month, the table. So what if he doesn't show up then either? I mean, how long we gonna keep putting this in?
Can we put it on the property agenda? And they, isn't property oversight anyway?
Yeah, we are, but I think we're getting the same results here as we are there.
Cause the last one, we looked at property that everything is good with those.
And what are we waiting for, hey, we're trying to give him we want him to explain why it's over, but is that gonna change anything? To use the ARPA funds?
Unless
That's
it's
not
an
gonna-
error and then we need, you know, he's getting a refund or something like that,
It's
but
30,000, that's a lot over. And where's that gonna come from?
It would likely come from the IT budget, but then that would require an amendment. Contingency, or contingency.
No.
Well, that's why I put it on here,
It's
because-
problem, so it should come out of their budget, not contingency.
right, but then they're gonna be over budget and it's gonna require contingency later on, so.
Maybe not,
Well, and to Phil's point, I think he is accurate, it needs to go to property and be addressed. Honestly, I think that's the oversight.
Technically, the facilities manager is the direct oversight of the IT department.
But that's still property.
Right, but if you're recommending any kind of recourse from this, the facilities manager is the direct oversight of that department.
But again, my point is, he explains why it's over or what happened or anything like that, will that make any difference to?
Well, and I mean, I asked for an
With the
explanation
ARPA funds.
a week ago and haven't received it.
I mean, I'm not saying let it go, but is that gonna solve anything for Jamie? I mean, we got, you know, ARPA
I
funds
mean,
are.
it can't stay in that budget.
Okay, so I think our biggest question is, we wanna know why, where did 30,000 go, and why is it over like that? That's our question.
Right, but doesn't change the fact that it's over.
I'm wondering if they knew they were over until it was brought to their attention. Because if invoices, if this was during the time that invoices from that department were coming in a non-timely fashion, how would you keep track? If invoices aren't being sent in, it's not getting posted to the budget. I think assumption. I'm talking back when all this took
I know,
place.
I'm just kinda showing the scope here, but.
No, Charmaine said this week that she hasn't seen any credit card invoices be entered since before the last property meeting.
So there's no way of the finance department knowing, like, if something is paid by check, there's no way of the finance department knowing that that's what's being paid.
Yeah, unless it's a credit, unless it's already been paid on a credit card, we don't know what we're missing.
Or get it lined by the spirit of medical.
Yeah, unless a vendor calls and is like, hey, we have several $100,000 of unpaid invoices, can you help us out?
The sad part with this, I mean, instead of, begin to think, instead of putting, even considering putting another person in that department, to help with things, you might as well put another person in finance that can at least take care of and monitor what's going on in IT department.
There's already 3 people,
For what?
there's about 3 people up there now.
In IT?
They want more.
No. Char's trying to monitor it. She's overwhelmed.
Yeah.
stop this, that I can see, is take away the purchasing power.
We tried that, and everybody tried that a little bit.
But I think you need to have a backup. Who's gonna run that? Who's gonna run the purchasing? But then,
You would need another FTE. I mean, really, if you were gonna have a purchasing department where all purchases have to go through that, one department, that's a full-time job.
we'll
Jamie,
put that
if this-
department on appeal.
That's,
Well, yeah,
that's gonna
that's
just
for-
create more work for other people too.
Right.
I mean, it took me a while to, try to reconcile all this stuff, formulate an email, put enough supporting documentation in there to show that this is what I have, this is what I'm seeing, and then to not even get a response is really, it's frustrating because I don't know what else to do.
Nobody else up in IT knows anything about this, I think.
They will defer.
They will. Just around that, and one person know everything.
If we don't pass number 2 this month, or now, is that gonna complicate things for you, or like I
I
say,
mean, it can be done later.
but we're running out of time in case you gotta do more investigation, or there's other things that pop up. That's-
Well,
Cause you gotta,
I mean, I do year-end budget transfers in the spring, when I bring you guys the budget amendments and stuff, it's just, this is one thing that's glaring that it can't stay like that, but
right,
if it takes me several months before I can move it out, I can work around that, but I just wanna make it very clear that this, there's no funding for it in that budget that it's recorded in. And there is one remaining ARPA project, which he's assured me that it's going to be done this year and I'll spend this year, but I mean, that's $18,000
Who's got that?
IT. That is
Isn't that the one we asked about?
yeah,
What is that for, may I ask?
I wanna say, it's like it's some sort of training or assessment. Let me look at the resolutions to know for sure. Oh, you know what? I got this response.
But that was designated with ARPA funds?
Yes. But I don't know, maybe there's invoices hanging out there that we just haven't received yet either. I don't know.
How do you know he's gonna do it?
Cause he says he is, but,
When did he answer you back on that?
after the last property meeting or at the same time, cybersecurity vulnerability assessment.
Well, he answered back when he was mine, that's what I'm getting.
It was brought up in the last property, we sure as he never else spent. We got a little bit of a smell.
But he's already over.
And I don't know what a cybersecurity vulnerability assessment is, that's not my realm, so I don't know what that all entails, how important it is to our operations and our security here. So I can't make the recommendation that we deobligate that project, reallocate those funds to these other projects that are overspent, cause I don't know enough,
That's something where they come in
but that's,
and try to hack you. We're hackers. You know, vulnerable, you're,
so I mean, I was kind of looking, when I emailed him, like, looking for a response on, hey, where's this gonna come from? And maybe throwing that out as an idea, but again, I don't know, that's not my area.
I think it should also be referred to property. I mean, the committee, the oversight committee should know that.
Or would you refer it to his supervisor?
Refer it to Charmaine and Charmaine.
I'll make the motion to refer to both, the supervisor and the property committee.
Meyer to refer to
That's my motion.
property and,
Especially the property chair.
is there a second, Mr. Overshoot?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Overshoot, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. You're that way, right?
Jim was gonna represent finance, it was his motion.
Call you both in for a special meeting.
Okay, I'll put it in my calendar.
I'm busy, whatever day that is.
You want it referred to the property committee and.
I'll be sick that morning.
And the supervisor. See how you guys are.
Could be, next month, start of the flu season, I think.
Since we smelled it. Oh, Max says it can already smell. Pardon? Did you call for a? I did. Yeah. Next matter up on the list.
We're talking about budgets, so I don't know if you wanna finish county.
We got Connie up
I'm
there.
not done yet.
Why are you ready to cut out of the office?
You did not, I did myself.
Sure there's no more pennies we can squeeze out of it?
Cause I need to. Oh, we can go to county board yet too, look at that.
Well, let's finish one first.
Oh, okay. This software has to go to the county board.
Scroll back up to the top.
Gotta go slower, man, I can't read that fast. Software's stuff.
That's my problem.
How much money could we save in the county if we take away everybody's seminars, dues and conferences? 2025.
I think that would be horrible. I learned a lot there.
Good.
Probably not as much as I think. We don't approve that once a month.
I mean, excluding sheriff's department, you could maybe cut 30
did get that codification of records, I took that way down. Cause I signed a different, you guys approved me to sign that different contract, so that took a lot off our plate.
I don't see much there to pick from.
Veterans graves, I can't, it has to be paid out.
Next.
And this isn't levy, so.
And then Mercy County Board is,
Yeah, one way to save some money in this budget would be to change up how the interviewing committees work. And have it be, department head and human resources instead of more ad hoc, because then you're not paying anything extra for interviews. I don't know how many per year, but you're talking, well, what, at minimum 2 board members at each interview committee.
require the laptops to come in, cause if you don't have your laptops, you can't see your agenda. Stop making so many copies, we make a lot of copies. All along.
Is that a?
No.
I mean, if you make one, I get a paper agenda, but your packets are there. Everything that you need in that packet is there. I mean, I get an agenda, so you can follow along, but I think the rest of the packet is
2 interview meetings so far
either
this
on
year.
the screen
So far
or the.
this year.
Yeah, some of them are over and over for the same position.
Right, but I'm looking at the agenda, so there's 42 interviewing committee agendas on our website for this year so far. So that's only through middle of September. End of September, there's one for next week on there, but
But again, a lot of them are for the same position. Interview after interview, you can't find qualified individuals.
so that's over $3,000. Plus but I think it'd make it easier on the departments and stuff too, cause then you don't have to have all those interviews right back to back. If you've got somebody that can come in at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday and somebody else that can come in at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday, you could interview 2 different people for the same position. Still, not have.
We have to pay WCA for.
I mean, you'd still have some for your department heads, but if that's how you choose to do it.
What's the other one? Actually, I'm thinking of,
County board chair, yeah.
it's the one that's in Superior.
Or
That one.
physical, yeah. Committee expense, so that'd be the mileage and, or not mileage, that's the, sorry, the committee expense there, I think is for training and travel, so like hotels, my,
Oh, right.
registrations.
Okay.
Sorry, $0.67 per mile. We could drop that down to 30. If we do with,
Make it the same as the employees.
use your personal vehicle. And then if you're going to a conference, board members could take a county car if they want.
That's at 65, 67.
67, yeah, if it's charged through the fleet, but then that's being reinvested into our county.
Yeah, if you knock that down to 6,000.
And the other thing is, the biggest thing in there is, again,
I think the one that
paying for the per diem. 38,000 up there, that's for attending the meetings and everything, right?
that should have to go
Cut the top line in half too.
That recommendation was right over here already too.
We ain't gonna get rich over that one, whether you take it or leave it.
Brian said it.
It don't bother me. Knock it right in half.
The problem was, I think we brought it up last time, was you have to vote on.
Yeah, we can't change the rates, but we can change the number of meetings, and I think we could change the mileage rate, cause that's different, I think. That's not incumbent.
I do tend to agree.
I thought we just recently
I have
bumped
too
up.
many meetings, whether it's ad hoc, every committee meeting, or just, we have a lot of loose meetings being called.
See what you guys learned at county's conference this year, because a couple of years ago, when last one I went to, there was one county there, I don't remember what it was, but it was Racine, whatever, but they talked about how they combined a lot of their committees and eliminated some.
When you have an administrative structure, there tends to be that where you're like,
But I still don't understand why we can't here, I mean, even without that. Then some of these committees eliminate,
that'd be a question for Rich, I think.
I mean, I'm sure some of them are probably think that should or whatever, I didn't know how they're set up, but.
We've already talked about that.
I think there was some consolidation at one point, I think that's how we got the Justin Youth Extension.
Well, that's probably the only one that carries three different titles. Conservation.
That county did go to administrative structure too.
Yeah.
That eliminated a lot of their committee meetings.
Which conservatively saves a lot of money.
Cause you would have like an executive committee instead of personnel, finance, and property. And the administrator could actually just make some of the decisions that are coming through.
Right, and a lot of our problem is a lot of our stuff goes from one committee to the next committee, and then it goes to the board, and then if the board decides to do something different, it goes back to the committee, and then goes through the motion, it's ridiculous. It's called micromanaging.
But you would still have the same amount of committees though, and yes, you actually eliminated committees.
So we're eliminating committees that we have.
You would eliminate all these extra meetings we're having right now for finance.
The budget meetings.
Administrative have to cut it, they'd have to figure it out.
The only problem is, Phil, you wouldn't have candy drop, you wouldn't have.
I'll just stop it at CJ meeting on my non-committees. I'm good with that. I'll see her for 5 minutes and get the same amount of candy as an 8-hour meeting.
So do we wanna make any decisions or?
How can you tell you not to have as many meetings?
You change the structure of the ad hoc interviewing. And then that would go to county board, would change our ordinances. We could bring a resolution to county board to change the board member mileage reimbursement rate to 30 cents per mile instead of the IRS rate unless they would choose, well, even then, there'd be always be a county car available.
Yeah, it'd be up to the individual if they choose to drive.
Right, otherwise you're getting the 30 cents and.
Or cut, the per diem thing, instead of $40 a meeting, $20 a meeting.
We can't change that right now, though. We can change it for the next term,
Or after the election.
before the election, but that would take effect the next term. So next year, when we talk about budgets, we can talk about.
Oh, a year from now.
The only problem with that though is that, so if we could cut our own wages, I'd be good with it, but if I'm voting to, the next board, I'm cutting their wages, just seems kinda, cause I'm not guaranteed to win the election, right? So I feel kinda like I'm cutting somebody else's wages if it's your own, it's.
Yeah, when you got paid 40, now we're gonna take, put theirs at 20, that's not fair.
Right, if we could vote on
You're
our,
really gonna come in here then for 20?
Right. yeah, if I could vote on our
Well,
own, different.
in some cases, it's cut anyhow. Cause the last time I was in here, I think I had 4 meetings in one day with a max of $95.
I know, it's
Right.
kinda.
So, I mean, with that, that's 27, it's less, no, it's $22 a meeting or whatever. So, but for me, it was still worth it because I'd rather have 2 or 3 things if I'm gonna burn a vacation day than.
Well, you're like me, usually there's more money coming here from
That's it.
than you
Oh,
do
yeah.
anyway, so.
I think that's why I've never
Yeah.
done it.
So they really don't matter. I don't see put in the mailbox, wait for, I don't even know what I get paid.
And it doesn't come in your mailbox.
I don't even know what I send in my.
I get it.
Some months I'm a month behind. You're doing this for the money anyhow, you need to have your exam.
The only thing I would say is we should look at sending for personnel, so they can read the impact of not having so many ad hoc committee meetings. Something, we gotta tighten that down.
So should we, is that a motion? Is that a motion?
Good.
Motion to forward to personnel committee to look at changing ad hoc interviewing committee, ad hoc
Right, for
interview.
eliminating the ad hoc interview.
Oh.
Well, personnel's not meeting for them anyhow, just one person for personnel. I said personnel doesn't meet for
Right.
them anyhow, just one person from personnel comes in. So it's not gonna save you much money, I mean, I don't care.
Well,
It's not gonna save you
and
much
and
money.
somebody from the oversight
Right.
board too.
Oversight and, yeah,
Okay, so motion by Caleb to forward personnel committee to look at eliminating ad hoc interviews. Seconded by.
There's a second.
Is there a second over?
Is there a second?
I'm asking.
That's what we're asking, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Coggins.
Good impact, fiscal impact of the ad hoc committee meetings.
It's probably about $4,000, depends on how many interviews you have in a year, but like, this, to date, it's over 3,200, so.
I'm trying to see into the future, I'm pretty sure that that's gonna come back to finance. I'm not sure yet, but it
That's
could.
what I'm worried about.
Anyway. favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
No,
Motion carried. Pardon?
Jimmy doesn't need me here anymore. We're just discussing your budgets. I'll stay if you want me
They're gonna keep making motions, so I don't think you can.
Huh?
I said they're gonna keep making motions, like, maybe.
Well, I can come back down if you need me to. Absolutely. Let me know what you want.
Otherwise, I really don't.
What about the mileage, do we wanna look at that or no? Reducing that mileage rate, do we wanna look at doing that?
Well, what do you think the average cost is?
Well, okay, so mileage there is five.
But I mean, nowadays, is there anything out there that,
Oh,
you know, it costs you 40 cents, costs you 45 cents, 50 cents to run your vehicle?
Insurance is jumping.
depends on what you're driving.
It depends on the vehicle.
I mean,
Right, but you gotta go off the average, is the only way to do
I
it.
can tell you what it is for
What
county
the
cars.
average- Yeah, what's the average cost per month?
I'll just look at 2023, cause that would be a full year.
Cause I think it's only fair if we're gonna ask other departments to make cuts that maybe.
So, you know, the cost per mile for county cars ranges from 21, well, oh, right there. Yep, from 18 cents per mile to $1.55.
Holy crap.
That's a squad, and that would have still depreciation in on it, you know, like the one that's 18 cents per mile of that car is fully depreciated.
So those numbers are a little skewed depending upon where the
So the
depreciation is at.
average-
put on your department.
Oh, yeah.
I googled it.
What's that?
What'd you get for Google?
It says according to the US Department of Energy, the average cost per mile of driving a car is 58 cents, yeah.
We're at what, 60?
67.
Make it 9 cents. We have to claim that?
Pardon? Well, the national average is 58, how the hell we got?
That's the IRS rate, 67 cents is the IRS rate.
I think we should go right down to 58 cents. Or 30, I don't care.
You're gonna make a cut, take it all the way down to 40.
Well, what's
But-
the, what's,
Employees
aren't
get 30,
employee, yeah, I mean.
which we just
Honestly, I
increased
think
from
that's
25
too low.
cents. Well,
Yeah, we did increase it.
I mean, we could look at increasing that to 40 for next year.
Well, cause we bumped that up because we were worried about not having enough county cars available if people didn't bring their own vehicles, right?
I don't really know what the rationale was.
That was off of Furious recommendation. We bumped
I
that
don't
up.
remember having anything to do with the county cars, just that the 25 cents was low.
They taking your personal car for county employees. We bumped that up recently.
Right, from 25 cents to 30 cents.
Just because some of the county cars are POSs.
Well, sometimes it's more convenient to just take your own day.
But, yeah. And if you wanna take your own vehicle, then, I mean, I think we bumped it up, I think part of the discussion was that we're not really losing, county's not, if we pay somebody 30 versus if they come in and take our car. And then they have the convenience of taking their own and not having to come in and get it. I think that was part of the argument, but. What's your motion, Phil? Gonna take it down to 30?
I said we take everything down to 25. County board and employees. Mileage. I mean, if you wanna encourage us to use fleet vehicles,
Well, yeah, but is it worth the battle to go down 5 cents backward to where we were? I
Right,
mean,
I mean, what was the point of raising it to 30 then? So, why
$2,500 here, we're not making any headway on solving our big problems.
That is true. Thank you, Terry.
$2,500 is $2,500.
I'm with John, if you don't cut the nickels and dimes, you'll never make a dollar.
You know, we're not gonna, I know you all wanna make $500,000 cuts, Terry, but $200,000.
You know what it's gonna come to?
Harry's got a $500,000 recommendation.
If
I move
somebody
we
gives
cut
some,
the mileage rate down to be equal to what county employees get using their personal vehicles. So what's that, 30 cents?
Yes, should I just put to reduce county board reimbursement to match, and that way, if that rate changes for the employees, it would
Yes.
just match that?
Yep.
Okay. Starting in 2025.
January 1.
Yeah.
That's your motion, Brian?
That's my motion, sticking with it.
Is there a second? I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Okay, so are we done with this budget?
Yeah, let's throw some more numbers in another page.
Does
A
that
lot of
have to
people
go to
get
county
paid
board
on
again and
mileage.
Reduce that mileage rate?
Yeah, I'll probably write a
how do people
resolution.
get paid on mileage when they go to these other meetings for the county?
Sorry, what?
How do people get paid for mileage? What's the mileage rate when they go to these out of county meetings?
So it
Where
depends
they
on if they're
represent
gonna
us
take,
on different committees.
oh, they put the 67 cents right now, but that would be the 30 cents. Or they could come take a county car.
Well, that one. I know where you're going with this.
I'm just telling you right now, I wouldn't go to those out of county meetings.
Well, it's one sacrifice though.
It voted through, so see where it goes.
If I did it for the money, I would be good, because I'm losing money anyways.
Well,
I'm taking vacation days.
Coming to the county board is one thing when you live in the county, but you start going 100 miles this way and 100 miles that way.
But how many of
If
them,
you're a public.
Well, you don't even get paid to go to SEP, right?
They, because of the dire situation there, they've cut the fee per meeting, and we do get mileage. But
So you
that
still
doesn't,
get
that doesn't affect Rusk County or our budgets, that's out of their budget. But there is a stipend per meeting, but we cut that to, again, share the pain of the layoffs and everything else that are going through.
I mean, I'm fine with getting nothing from mileage. Come to county board meeting. I'm 8 miles away. What I'm saying is some of these guys that are on these committees that are going much farther,
Yeah, I live fairly close, and there's some people on the other side of the county.
I'm a mile off the county line right there, so it's a ways from me.
but you know, you start, that's where it's gonna add up for folks.
But then take a county car.
I'm not taking county car when I do that. If I
But how
gotta,
do you think how do employees feel too, you know?
but I'm not working for the county.
Right, but if I'm gonna, like, for example, WCA, I'm gonna leave on Sunday, do I wanna drive to Ladysmith to come get a county car on Sunday before I drive all the way to La Crosse, or am I just gonna take my own car and get paid the 30 cents per mile? I'm just gonna take my own car and get paid the 30 cents per mile. So that's just, it's a choice.
And I don't think people should be, I don't like that situation yet, and I think I'm one of the ones that brought it up before, if I remember right. And we got it to the 30, but I still don't think that situation's great radiated, but that's just my opinion. Next, we're gonna be stuck in the mud all day.
Okay, so then do we wanna just start at the top of the list and work down, or how do you guys wanna do this?
Anyway, we gotta go through them all anyways.
Yeah.
Start at the top of the list and. Start going down.
Jared, you know, if you want forestry, he's gotta leave at 11:30 or 1:30 to go, or he's got a meeting at 1:30 with a timber sale.
Well, then pull this up if somebody's got somewhere to go.
Yeah.
My thought. So let's look at it before we bring him in.
This one I highlighted the tabs since there were so many things that changed.
So what account number are we
Oh,
on?
in his email.
Was there any changes to this one?
Yeah, all the,
Anything highlighted, sorry.
the highlighted tabs are the ones that changed, and then each cell that was changed was highlighted.
So
And
is
then
it-
I also put what it originally was over in the memo,
Okay,
so that you have an idea of how much was cut. In this one, though, they had a resignation, and that employee didn't take health insurance, so then we had to add that in for next year, because we don't know with the new employee, you know, they could take family, so we put family in there. So that kind of, didn't help this budget at all, even though they made cuts. That increased the wages in fringe, for the fringe.
And he eliminated one of his summer workers too.
In
Parks and Rec.
yeah.
so like 456 is what, 15% calculated something, is that more?
No, I don't know what his original was, but, you know, most of the departments couldn't actually cut out the 15% because then they would have been tapping into the wages.
Right.
So he said he cut the forestry, this budget by $16,388. And so that was by cutting out those ones in the yellow. And the Parks and Rec budget, he cut out 19,600, but actually I think we added most of that back in because of the health insurance.
So,
Yeah, got the floor clean up, plus
Oh.
of $1 million now.
On his, budget. I won't be paying attention. So he.
Like our chair wages were the biggest one. He's got that to zero.
The decrease to 20 is 5,000.
Actually, we're thinking about adding where he pays us for coming in. Sorry, you're already contracted to back out now, it's like, you gotta pay a fee to back out of this contract too. Did you look for the fine print when you signed
I
it?
was just gonna say, what's with all the fine print now?
So this gross stumpage revenue for forestry, down there on 44. I mean, does he feel it, that's always been a fluid number, so to speak.
Yes, but right now they're having trouble even making those sales, and I think if you know, the timber sale revenue coming in above budget has been our saving grace the last few years, and we really, you know, should budget conservatively on the revenue side, because, you know, if you end up not meeting that target, whole budget is even worse off than you had initially planned.
Right, and I remember when we all got in here on this, it was always kind of inflated, and we brought it back to reality. If I remember correctly. Because you really don't know if you're gonna have crap here.
We've got 10 million to the budget, we'll be fine.
Carbon credits,
I mean, yes.
I forgot about carbon credits, that's gonna be coming any day now.
Actually, we had a pretty nice meeting last week, so Jim.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a lot of hot air, I mean carbon credits. I sat through one of them Tuesday, another presentation on carbon credits. From a company that's into carbon credits, and I kinda told my thought.
Who all was in the carbon credit meeting?
What's that?
Who all was in the carbon credit meeting?
It was just me, Jared.
You guys forwarded the results of that,
It was a verbal meeting
I'll write something up to send to the forestry committee.
about a marketing plan.
Okay, we're falling off track.
They're coming October 2nd, that's basically the meeting.
See, if we just put in here, we're gonna sell carbon credits this year, budget's all balanced.
Are they meeting with the forestry committee, you know? Are they coming to the forestry?
I've been told to rope it in.
Wrong department.
I mean, it affects the budget, what happens there, it's for the forestry, so it's just my opinion. If you disagree, carbon credits aren't part of the budget, that's fine.
I don't disagree, but if you're getting off into the forestry side of it too far, and the carbon credits are an issue to what we're talking about. I don't know when
You just let me know when I can speak.
What the hell is that supposed to mean? As long as I'm not, as long as I don't bring up carbon credits, we're good. I don't know what we're. You opened the can, Jim, thanks.
So if departments had asked about revenue, we had said unless it's a new revenue source, like, hey, we could start charging for this, or we could apply for this grant, to not focus on the revenues, but to focus more on the expense side.
Well, the only reason I brought that one up is that I see it's going down by the looks of it.
Yeah, the markets are down right now, significantly.
But then I see for the first 6 months, we got 1.3, but we got 1.4, I mean, are we gonna be short yet this year? Or what is that?
No, we'll still be over the budgeted amount.
Cause we
Okay.
budgeted $1 million,
Okay.
so we're over our budget, but.
But the last couple years, I think 2022 was a record, 2023 was very, very near a record, but this year will be not.
Yeah, 23 was up there, yeah. I remember that. So in a sense, if we're going to market less timber going into you're in forestry, right?
I don't know that we're not marketing it.
It said it's not selling.
Okay, so we have it to market.
Yes, I think, I'd have to ask Dane, I think we only sold 2/3 of our sales for this year.
And we had some sales forfeited too.
That's right.
And, okay, so from the lumber side of it, the market is so soft right now, it's not even funny. They can't even get loads to come in, on a normal week, they'll pull in anywhere from 30 to 70 loads, truckloads of log a week. Lately, since the market went soft, they're lucky if they even get 9 persons. So they're starving for wood. A lot of people, what it is, they're holding on to it, whether it's cut or sitting on the ground, but come around. But there's no place to go with it. There ain't one place taking any kind of wood right now. So even Domtar, there's a fine example.
With interest going up, they feel there's less people building, et cetera, and a lot of this lumber that we have, or woods that we have around here is not building material type wood. Unless you're gonna make chipboard or something like that out of it.
I mean, you get your old, we do have quite a substantial amount of oak, I believe, but the majority, I'm wrong.
A lot of your aspen goes to the chipboard, but I don't even know if they're making that much of it, plywood. taking over Beer over there in Rapids,
No,
that's still empty,
still sitting
I
there.
thought somebody.
There's been all the talk of somebody gonna come in and redesign it.
That was the last I heard.
But nobody's ever been prepared.
No,
In Rapids, yeah. Beer and Mill is run, but not Rapids.
oh, really?
Yeah, it's a company called Nine Dragons.
That's what I heard about, okay. Alright, now you mentioned the name.
Well, how many loggers you got, the contracts you got on? What do your contracts look like in force?
When we go for bids, some of them are getting bid
How
up.
do you get
I would say 75%, just a guess, you have to ask. Oh, how many are we getting, where they're forfeiting?
back? How many are you getting back?
Few.
Okay, so let me throw it
I
at you.
couldn't, I couldn't tell you for sure how many are in the loop to
How
come back.
many of them are over their contract asking for extensions
Is it like half a dozen right now that are on extensions?
Yeah, something like that.
right now? So what's the likelihood of them even, getting that cut based on what market is?
I mean, if somebody signs a contract extension, at least hoping,
Right, I know what you're saying, but I mean, based on what you guys see in the forestry side of it, what,
I would say it's less likely than it was, or it's more likely than that they don't fulfill the contract than it has like last year.
Yes, because the reason most of them asked for extensions was because the market was so down to see if there would be a market upturn.
And even going out for bids now, sometimes we have, timber sales that aren't even getting bids on it, so we're kind of direct market it. Or add it to the next,
how many tracks you got out there with no bids on it, you think?
there's a few,
Good size ones?
not huge ones. I don't remember anything super huge. There were smaller ones, but even them used to get bid out before.
And it was a lot of winter sales.
Yeah. So I mean, you're gonna start with your worst, your harder sales are the first ones to go. To me, that's a sign of how things are progressing, right?
Right.
I mean, it used to be, you might once in a while get one. Once in a blue moon.
Sure.
There's multiple, so now we're having discussions, should we change how they can log it, change the contract, just to make it easier to try to get people out there, which was never a discussion before.
Cause they're not even cutting it.
Well, if there's no bids, yeah, like, how can we make the contracts, so that somebody wants to bid on it, and changing some of the stipulations in there.
Makes sense.
They're talking about hot sawing, whereas before that wasn't allowed. I think it's a hot saw is what they called it. So part of the reason the revenue hasn't gone down yet either, though, is contracts are for 4 years, so I mean, we're still seeing the up from 4 years ago, but as things get worse. Right, so we're still picking up from good times.
Good time. Sideways here. That's one thing we brought up, Guy, camp fees, drop fees,
Right now, there's a,
Right here, this would be the 6 months.
that's $652,000.
there vacant at forestry yet?
No, he hasn't, he's not done until the second week of October, so they're fully staffed at the moment.
Well, one here's a tech 50%.
Yep. So, we have a forester one position, but when Nick left, Jared wanted to fill the forester tech position. So Alex spends about half of his time with forestry and then the other half of the time with Mike. So that other forest one position, we're not filling at this time, it's still kinda hanging out there. But Jared wanted to fill the tech instead.
So we had the same amount of people who switched which position.
Okay.
Jared, they wanna know where the 2 million in carbon credits is.
You wanna know what?
Where the 2 million in carbon credits is.
Oh, they're right around the corner.
Budget over 2025.
Yeah, totally.
Could you explain the timber sales expense going into next year, or the request for it versus it more than doubled?
I can. So historically, a few years ago, we were utilizing a loan from the state on a different budget page.
Okay.
And this loan is required to be paid back with 20% of timber sale revenue until it's paid off. So it was really just a circle fancy accounting where they would give us $44,000 each year, and we paid it off before spring, you know, as soon as we paid when we took the timber sale revenue in, we paid it off.
Okay.
So rather than take a loan and do extra work to accounting to make that happen, it was decided at that time, let's see, planning for 2024 to stop taking that loan and just budget for it.
Okay.
In our budget, rather than toss money around. So what happened is there was extra money left in that carry forward account. For 24, we budgeted,
It was like 17.2.
to use up the carry forward. And then the remainder amount that we needed to thousand. Now, assuming we use that up in 24, we'll have to budget the full amount for 25 and going forward.
So, yeah, this is what we touched about a little bit last month.
Yep.
And so, by not taking that loan, our timber sale revenue was actually increased by that amount. So, it comes out the same, it's just, yeah, it was budgeted, you know, that amount was split between two different budgets for 2024, but then going forward, it would all just be within that timber sale expense within one budget. So it does look like a big increase, but it's really not.
Is there anything we can do differently to bring that number down? I mean, what all goes into, I mean, that's the advertising and notices and,
No, like advertising and stuff that comes out of, line,
okay.
duplicated. That's mostly paint and supplies for establishing timber sales on there. I don't think it's safe to cut that, potentially cut a couple thousand out of it. But I really
Yeah,
wouldn't touch that.
I'm just looking, I mean, are there ways to be more efficient with it?
Yeah, I mean, we don't just dump paint on the ground.
Well, I get that, but, I mean,
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, I found $16,000 to cut on it this, which is very uncomfortable. I don't foresee any equipment needs for next year. And the leased equipment, we haven't been using that, because we have no way to use that. Currently, we have nobody with a CDL in our department, so we can't rent a skid steer from highway. Then the other minor costs are, you know, pushing the luck on contracted services. Historically, we should be okay. Repairs, I don't know what the repairs are gonna be next year on ATVs or stuff like that. Forestry equipment, that's, again, historically, it's been low. Should be okay.
Is there any projects you have budgeted, Jared, that are not grant funded or related, that would be levy related?
That are not,
Right, cause I don't wanna go through here and I don't know where you're pulling, you know, your funds from for some of these projects you have listed. So I just thought I'd cut the chase and ask you if there's some that are not being grant funded or something that are gonna be levy funded. And I'm gonna ask the same thing of
yeah,
everybody if I can remember to. Just I know you got a lot of different projects cooking on here, which I'm assuming a lot of them are grant based or grant.
yeah, I can't think of anything that's not current, as far as projects and development. You know, there's the Trail and Park Development Fund and the Park Development Fund, there's two separate budgets. That we would, I don't even remember what I planned on that. Those are used basically as needed for some repairs in the parks and on some trails and whatnot. But that's, those are both carry forward accounts, they're not a levy impact either.
Okay.
We have some hopes and dreams about some improvements to some campgrounds and parks. Paving and whatnot, that's kind of looking at power line funds, I believe, is what we use. Again, not a levy thing, but those accounts are a pretty good sum of money. They're looking for cash, it's there.
That was the Josie Creek deal, wasn't it? Was it one of them, or the?
Yep, that's one of them. paving that troublesome hill at the rifle. Yeah, when budgets are tight, I understand that developing new stuff or improvements isn't really a good option, but I'm not sure how we can cut more than what I did and still maintain what we have. Eliminating the intern is gonna push Mike more into the parks, and he'll be doing less of ATV trail development work next year because of that. No way around that. I have a vacancy that's out for advertisement right now for hiring. I don't wanna go into that. But just letting you know.
You have a vacancy for hiring?
Well, so Alex Lauber's last day will be October 11th. We're currently advertising to replace him.
That's the tech.
Yep. He's about 50-50 between parks and forestry. Summertime is parks 100% for him, winter is forestry for him. Including marking and establishment work, as well as scaling wood when it's cut.
Release. Release.
What do we lease?
6,500 lease equipment.
Skid steer from highway department. Eliminated that completely from forestry, and on the parks page, it took 5,500. Left only 1,000 in there. We use that for dock, installation and removal. We have 20 some bolt hangings that we maintain. We don't take some of the docks are permanent, they stay into the winter, other ones we have to remove each year, because the ice will destroy them. You know, when time allows, and when we had someone with the CDL, we could move the skid steer ourselves and do minor repairs, you know, some gravel here and there at boat landings or parks. Maybe a little clearing or whatever at campsite to help it out. We haven't had a CDL in the department for over a year. We haven't done much leasing. And therefore not much of that type of work.
I remember,
Gravel, we just have highway bring it now and they'll spread it out for us.
I remember that, you guys going through that CDL thing.
Yeah, I was hoping to get Alex a CDL,
But,
he's out.
and why is the reason we have to have a CDL for
to haul the skid steer?
Because they're licensed over 26 for the combo.
I forget the weight, but yeah, it was, the truck and trailer and skid steer are just slightly above that threshold.
I think it's 26 last I knew. That's the rules I changed. 1 pound?
26 1 pound, I believe it is.
Right. So if the trailer's GVW for that and the truck combination and or licensed for that or more, you have to go by whatever's greater than 2, then it would require a CDL.
They got one of the bigger skid steers though, don't they?
That's 100 horse.
So they got one of the big
Tracked.
track too, right?
Tracked, yeah. I wanna say it was like 13,000 pounds bare without an attachment.
Tracks are heavy.
I was gonna say 14. They 14, and then the truck.
I've got a 65 horse and it weighs like 7 pounds, but it's not tracked.
Well, so either way, we've been using highway for skid steer work, and then we're caught also paying their wages, even though they're already on payroll. I don't know why they bill us for all their wages when they do it for us, but that's just how it works. So we get less done by not having the ability to move that machine by ourselves and do it on our own. Pay their wages and benefits when they're working for the county. Kinda weird to me, but I don't expect you guys to change that.
You really need to get somebody with a CDL. Right?
It'd be nice.
Well, in the grand scope of the finance committee, it really doesn't matter. I get where it matters to him on his budget. It's just moving from one pot to another.
Say we
But
discussed
yeah, I get your
how
point.
we're gonna get a CDL in forestry, there was a couple of people that were against that.
I was still against it. Can we just have to get an answer and go get it themselves and get it done now? Not that hard. How bad do you want something? Just saying.
Yeah, just the reaction I'm out of.
It actually started when years ago, I don't know how many, I think Tesco was still here, we asked for a skid steer. Highway asked for a skid steer and maintenance asked for a skid steer all in the same year. County decided to buy one for highway and then throw money in, our budget to basically rent it from highway. And it works well. But as you can see, we haven't utilized it much.
What do you foresee your forestry going forward, Alexander, here? I mean,
Timber sale revenue type stuff,
next year,
it's not good.
you're gonna hit the million next year, you think?
We will for the next couple. When this implosion happened on the market, when Rapids shut down, we were still sitting on probably close to $8 million of sold timber sales sitting there in contract, ready to be cut. And that's kind of dwindling a little bit. We still have a fair bit on the books, sold and ready to cut. But our last few bid openings have not been over $1 million. For a while, every bid opening was estimated at over $1 million. We have 6 timber sales from spring that we didn't even sell.
So you made good, but you do that twice a year?
2 a year.
2 a year. So you were hitting the million, so it'd be 2 million a year, and now you're gonna be maybe $1.5 million, it sounds like, per year.
Yeah.
You have they all go.
Right. I mean, we're almost giving away our hardwood pulp right now. $4 a ton is our minimum bid rate on that. Roughly $10 a cord, you're looking at 12 cord semi of hardwood pulp is only worth $120 to the county. It's like kind of a joke. It's not worth much right now. And I was told that $10 a cord is way too high. It needs to be more like $1.50 a cord. Just yesterday by a contractor. They can't bid where we're at. We're eking them down, we're eking our minimums down a little bit again. We have to keep doing that in order to try to sell stuff, but it's not very valuable right now. Logs are okay. And he did say if he can make more money on his logs, then he can take a loss on the pulp. So it's a tough industry.
Maybe it should bounce back a little bit with interest rates coming down.
It'd be nice.
I mean, I think it's gonna take more than 0.5% though.
Yeah, I mean, everything goes up and down. We were at a high for a while, now we're in a low, maybe in.
If interest rates would drop a couple percent, you'd see building probably increase maybe a little bit.
But even then, we kind of trail where our sales are, cause our sales are 4 years out, so I mean, we're still hitting some of the highs. Even if things start coming around, by the time we see the revenue might be a couple years out.
But hopefully you'd have less maybe that get rejected or whatever.
Yeah. Contracts coming back.
Yeah, and I'm anticipating a couple, 2 or 3 sales we'll get back this year that guys just have been unable to cut. For multiple reasons, being hardwood pulp and overbooking themselves and tough winters, everything, combination. When we take them back, we will retain 25% of the estimated value in the bond. At least we get something out of it.
And probably it ticked off individual in most cases.
Depends on the person. Some of them know what they signed and some of them don't wanna hold their own signature as to what it actually means.
Yeah, I get it. They don't send you extra if it goes up after they, you know, if they sell it to the roof, they don't send you extra.
You make all your extra on carbon credits,
What's that?
you make all your extra on carbon credits, just relax.
Yeah, I was told there's
See
some
some-
interest in some carbon credits.
What was that, Jay?
I was told last week there's some interest in our carbon credits, a little bit of them. I'd answer some questions, I don't know if it's a legitimate thing or.
I was telling Ashley earlier, so Tuesday I sat through one, so on the animal side of things, there's a lot of carbon credits moving.
Sure.
So, and a company by the name of Atlantico came and did a presentation for us, and they're tied in with Athean, I think it is. Land Lakes has one called Truterra. For some reason, they're claiming they're moving all these carbon credits off of land. And I asked them, I said, why can't we move them off for forestry? And we came down to kind of the assumption that it's all about the market. These larger companies that are getting into this, such as a company like Atlantico, which is worth billions of dollars, Land Lake billions of dollars, they're still taking the same cut. But they're finding different, they're making partners, such as like on the milk side of things, it's, and they're all doing it on the milk side of things, they're going in with Hershey's or Mars. Because the way the credits are set up, then they get credit if they sell them to someone that's in the dairy industry such as that, they get credit for selling them. They get the money for selling them, and then they get the credit against a farmer's land for selling them. So they get the benefit twice. It's very frustrating, and I said, but we can't move ours, and we've been in it for years, but you could sign up as a farmer, and it sounds like move them within a year. They're coming up with ways now just for feeding certain things to animals, and by reducing methane, you're gonna get money for that. So,
The farm lobby in general has always been way stronger than forestry. Farmers can do things that we can in other ways as well.
and it's not the farm lobby, it's the companies involved that are getting this done.
Sure.
To benefit their bottom line. I mean, they're looking at it from a way to make a profit, period. So, in most cases.
Well, is there anything else we can do with this budget?
Maybe add some back in there.
What, you're breaking up down there, can't hear you.
Are you comfortable with this? We don't want a situation where somebody comes in at the end of the year and goes over on the budget?
Long term, I'm not comfortable with
Just for 1 year, we'll talk about it again next year.
Well, I mean, a year, 2 or 3, you know, you can get by sometimes for a while, but something, things start to fall apart.
Next year we can cut different
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah.
Oh, still. Brutal. Hopefully next year is not like this year.
Election year.
Well, I mean, when I came here, a lot of the park stuff was pretty junky. Tables were falling apart. And I'm not saying anything bad about the people before me, it just wasn't prioritized the same way as it has been the last 5 to 7 years.
It's picking up.
Signs were junk, we've switched our signs to more durable signs, slowly but surely. Picnic tables are treated wood now, so they last a lot longer. Things are in pretty good shape, I would say, out there. But that came at a cost. We can slowly work backwards as stuff falls apart and not repair it. Scab it together. I mean, I was scabbing picnic tables for campers on their site with a chainsaw and trying to screw rotten boards together. When I started here, it was pretty embarrassing, to be honest.
We start
I don't wanna go back to that type of a
We
situation.
start building those picnic tables out of oak, we can't move it. Nobody's gonna move them, they're never gonna steal them.
Yeah. They do disappear sometimes, but,
I don't know if they'll load up too many that are made out of oak, do you? Especially if it's rough cut.
well, we gotta be able to move them ourselves too. Have to mow under them.
Oh, then you might be able to.
We need 5 interns to move tables around.
Alright,
We're down to 16.
I ain't got nothing.
we went through the whole budget there, yeah. So if we gotta have it up there, go up there. Any other questions? Just pretty tight already. Listen, something. Alright, I think that's all we got for you, Jared.
Good. The county conservation aids, 2,500 they cut, that's a grant program. That is, those are $5,000 projects and it's a 50/50 grant.
say 50/50, they match what you put in,
Yeah.
50%? So the cents more you take out of it, you might be leaving some on the table.
Yeah, if I take that out, that's $1 grand, I would leave 2,500 on the table for $1 grand, just wanna apply for $1 grand. We're sitting on one right now to build a parking lot by the Devil's Kettle on County W. That was already in action, but. If you guys wanna switch that funding to something else, I'm fine with that, if you wanna not utilize that grant, I'm fine with that too.
And I think we could use power line funds for that.
There's nothing in the grant that would prohibit us from using power line funds for our 50%.
We do it for other ones.
I mean, if you got a project to use it on, we're foolish to.
So then would we wanna increase it back up to that 5,000?
Yeah, cause I need 2,500 for the current grant that we already have. That may get done this fall, but I have my doubts, so we might need that. You know, if we get done this fall with the one, then next year will only be 2,500 anyways.
And any other tabs that we needed to go to, or?
No, I like that, I looked at it all over.
You wanna take a break?
Yep,
How long are we taking?
but
How long are we taking?
how long do you want? About 15, 20 minutes?
Good luck, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jared.
I don't care.
You got any opinion on it?
I think 20 minutes is.
25, 30 minutes, whatever, 20 minutes for sure. So, how many of them actually sent back their refund budget?
So we did not get the county clerks. Which would include the county board, IT, land conservation, register of deed and treasurer, as far as like actual county departments go.
So I'll just speed this
The
up.
maintenance, we didn't get till 9 o'clock last night, but that's why I sent out that separate email this morning.
Just moving along, so to speak. Can we go to the ones that have sent the budgets back and just look at them and keep moving?
Yeah.
I mean, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You know, ones that didn't. I just don't know what they're about.
till next year is back maybe for that one.
Oh, where is she?
I don't know. I started working this her. Nope.
Animal shelter.
Hold on, let me close out of it though.
You wanna go to animal shelter?
Where we're going? Animal shelter?
I don't know.
Animal shelter.
Right next to the end.
No, I gotta find it. Okay, so Dawn went through, Dawn went through and cut, and then it was told us cut too much. So we had to go back, or she went back, or we changed it. Second year.
You got more than the 15%?
No, but she cut it down, I mean, you ended up with almost no food for the dogs, cause she thought she had cut all that down, and so she overdid it. So, and, well, come on, what is this? So, second, okay. Well, anyhow, so we went back and, as she said, no, you can't cut that deep. I mean, again, there's not very much to be cut here. So you can see the ones that, basically in the yellow that have been cut. And the only differences are, well, this is going down to the revenue. The amount due, the last line, animal shelter transfer dog taxes, we have an increase for next year, and based on what happened in 2023, that amount instead of 26,600 should be 35,500.
I did update that number when I was reviewing it, but I updated it based on the clerk's budget, because that's where the other side of that transfer is.
Well,
They
yeah, but
had-
that,
They had 30,115.
right, but that's not based on, I don't know what they did for their thing. Because if you look at 2023 actual, that's what we actually got, 26,342. We went through and did the calculations on increasing the dog fees for next year based on the same number of animals in 2023. And it comes out to about 9,200 or something, so I just rounded, so it comes out 35,500. And that's based on I have no idea what the clerk's office did. They wouldn't have gone in and done any changes, they wouldn't even know what the increases were based on the number of dogs.
I think that that's something that needs to be taken up with the clerk's office.
Well,
Cause it was,
I'm not doing their budget, I'm just saying that based on taking 2023 dogs, just the increase in the dog license fees, just the increase for next year. And so take the 26 plus the 90, it's a little over 9,000. That number for animal shelter, dog taxes, the last line should be 35,500. You debate what you want on that, but that's actually a calculation.
How does that math come out based on what was appropriated for 24?
Well, we've got
way
estimated
over.
26,000 in there for that. Because again, we're basing it on what we actually got, because in 2023, that's an actual number. So if you take the actual number and you go through and you do the calculations on the same number of dogs in 23 for 24, plus the increase, that is the number, so that's what I'm just telling you, what you're gonna do. Okay, the clerk's office, I have no idea what they did, they probably just estimated, I don't know how they did, can't answer for that. So that's what I'm saying, the last line, there should be 35,500 for revenue, and then the amount for the city, if you go through the formula and do that, instead of 60,000, it should be 83,752.
But they already told us they're only paying them 60,000.
Well-
Well, I'm just saying, why would we over budget for revenues if we know we're not gonna receive it?
Exactly.
But why do we want to let them tell us, so they're in violation of their agreement with us? So you're gonna just let them do it?
I'm not saying that we let them do it, I'm saying that we budget for what's realistic.
But I'm saying that we're budgeting, or should be budgeting for what they should be paying us.
We should budget for what we think we'll spend next year.
Well, this is
We shouldn't-
revenue.
Okay. Then we should budget for what we think we'll get next year. We shouldn't budget for if we hope that somebody gives us more money.
Okay,
And the city share is how much?
well, it should,
40%?
Yep.
So if the city's gonna put in 60, then our share would be 90.
we're gonna be picking up 23,000 of the cities.
Or we cut it down so that it comes out to be the 40-60%.
If you do that, I was telling them that Dawn had gone through and cut, and you took a look at it and said, you're cutting way too much.
She cut too much, in my opinion, that she couldn't run a shelter off of what cuts she had made.
I mean, they gotta have food, they gotta have this stuff. So we went back and added in a little bit, but we had cut. And then,
I only have what Dawn gave us.
I don't know that those changes are reflected in our copy
yes, they are,
there.
I have what Dawn gave us.
yes. So Dawn cut too much, we went back and changed the numbers, we came up with the 7 numbers, that's what she sent you, Jane.
Okay. Because in my opinion, the first draft of this budget was, it was just only as good as the paper it was on, in my opinion. She cut food.
She thought she had to cut
Right, so,
everything, I mean, that she was told, cut 15%, okay, take 15%, where are you gonna cut it? Again, this is a bare bones budget, so she cut. And we had already gone through and cut before we'd done the budget, and then she went through and cut again, and like I say,
We need to tell everybody to follow Don's example and cut 50%.
no, I mean, like, seriously, some of these cuts were just like, animal supplies. At 6 months, she had already spent $4,000 and she was proposing to budget $1,400. I mean, that's not feasible, right? And in my opinion, as the administrative coordinator, I didn't want, and the finance director, we didn't want people making cuts just to satisfy the finance committee that are unreasonable cuts that we know they're not gonna be able to follow. That's not the point of what we're doing here.
And then we end up with what John was talking about earlier, that they're gonna spend whatever they spend and go over whatever it is, and what's gonna happen there.
That's my concern. Sit here for 2 days and do this, and ain't gonna make a difference if we don't figure out how to fix that loophole.
The city reached out to me, said that they're only budgeting 60,000 for the animal shelter, so that's why that number is in there, the way it is.
What's the norm?
It's supposed to be 40%.
Usually on like last year's. So it was, the 2023 share was just under 60,000.
And they just picked the same amount without any increase this year or anything, or adding the half position or anything.
But, I mean, they sent out a special communication letting us know that 60,000 was all that they were allocating for the animal shelter, so I don't think we should budget for more than that if they're already telling us they're not going to pay more than that.
That's fine, but we can't cut more to satisfy the city. That's not the formula, and they're in violation of our agreement.
So again, the city's got us in a catch-22 here, and we're gonna. Yes.
If there's a battle there with the city, that's probably a separate conversation, but
It
for
is.
budgetary purposes, we gotta stick with what we know they're gonna pay, which is 60.
Clarification, getting that track there, Phil.
I mean, you come up with a carbon credit conversation,
Create
and
the
I went
budget.
back into carbon credits after that.
I understand what you're saying.
I was the only one coming, that's what I done. I'm okay with that.
I don't wanna start that rivalry either. It's getting so old that Harley just takes the hit and kinda walks away and doesn't do nothing about it.
Do you guys want us to increase the dog license fees in that?
Didn't we just raise them?
Wait, no, with the dollar amount in there.
I would probably trust Terry's numbers as 35.
Right. So,
Terry knows numbers pretty well.
You have to ask clerk's office where their math came up with it,
Yeah,
30,000.
so, and then that was.
well, that is pulling from this line here, which is the, remainder of what they bring in and their,
Well, the 29,600 is what he's saying needs to change to that 35.
yes, this is the number I think needs to change to the 35.5. So not all of that's gonna go to the animal shelter, cause we need to subtract the expenses for the dog license first, and
Which is
then.
at 620. I don't know why she dropped that down. She dropped that down to 625. That's pretty kind of clear. Cause that's supposed to be for their time that they spend administering dog licenses, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what was appropriate.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, because they spend quite a bit of time doing all the collections and reconciliations and all that kind of stuff, but. I asked them, how much time do you spend in? So, yeah, I would change that.
So if you take the 150, 90 and 60, and then add all your other expenditures to it, that's what we can afford to do for a budget. Right?
So change that to 35 what?
35,
Or do
Was it
35, yeah.
I rounded it, 35,500.
Assuming dog food's gonna come down.
No, but she had to cut, like I say, she went through and cut.
she changed that number to that. And that's what you can change this.
Yeah, go check that. Yeah.
Remember Bar Meat Ranch?
Yeah.
Let's get that started. That'll be good.
No, it's more than the 35.5
Oh, wait.
Because
of this. That also is taken into
What are you, I'm on 35,
Actually,
what
it's
is
more.
that? Auto maintenance
Okay.
or something?
Yeah, auto maintenance gasoline. And we're cutting that is what they pay to haul the animals to Neosville and Eau Claire to be spayed or neutered, because the vets around here can't do it.
Well, just getting my electric car.
And we dropped it a little bit because I think we're going to try and transfer some of these expenses to the spay neuter fund, because it is for spay neuter, so. We've gotta do a time log and all stuff like that, but, so for next year. move the mileage gas, to that line. Move it to a spay neuter expense, cause that's what it's for.
I think it's gonna be over this year, isn't it? For that travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
Getting
should really do a
close.
transfer up this year, because if it's not, if it's, you know, if it's related to spay neuter, it should really get charged.
So we're just deciding to do that, this year.
Well, but that line is over budget for that reason.
Well, yes, but that's what the original budget was for, but again,
It was for transporting animals for spay neuter?
well, that's gas and everything for doing it, Because otherwise, you see they have that in 2023, they had 4,200. And that was the same thing.
I mean, it really should have been transferred in 23 too.
Could have been, but again, wasn't. This
Well,
is
cause
what
I
we-
can't transfer it unless I know what's being used for that, so it's.
Right,
what
but they
effectively
have to,
managing.
they have to maintain the record so we know the right amount to transfer to.
And
That
they
wasn't decided until this year.
Yeah,
to
I
do
mean, they
that.
should have a log in the vehicle every time they drive it, where they're going in.
Like I say, they would have to go back through the log and everything, because they do run around picking up animals here in Ladysmith and everything. So it's not every
Right.
not every penny goes to Neilsville or Eau Claire. But you're not gonna cut.
You still get some food donated?
Oh, yeah, they just had, I think it was, some lady or animal and child abuse or something. They went in and the dogs were malnourished and, I forget how many, she got 7 dogs? And I forget how many cats, and yanked it out of there because the person was going to jail or is going to go to trial even. And so then she put on Facebook, and she showed pictures of the dogs. We need food or donations to help, get these dogs back to, their mange and fleas and, really, really bad off, almost starving to death. And so she got a lot of people bringing in dog food.
No, but back in the day, if I remember correctly, Walmart and stuff used to donate some damaged food, stuff like that.
Walmart doesn't do a lot of that. They get some, but not enough to feed the whole shelter.
Do we get it from them though, if they have it? Someone asking them for it?
They buy, Walmart knows if they have stuff that they can donate to the shelter, but the costs are going up on all of that food, and now, like say, we just had the animal control meeting this morning, there's 76 critters in that shelter. They're over maxed right now. They've got dogs in, they can't take any more dogs, they've already got, the cages, are like this, and there's a dividing in here, they've got dogs in both sections, with a divider in there. They can't take anymore, you can't divide anymore, so, and the cats are, there's cats in every corner and everything they've got right now. So they are full, and it takes a lot of food to,
You should adopt a few. Maybe like a
we've
dozen.
already got enough home at home.
That was
So if you
the
want
worst.
farm cats, I think there's one farm cat available, a feral cat, that they try to get rid of for farm cats and everything too,
I got too many.
just being adopted.
I got 22.
And I have pictures of them too, if you would like to see them. I've got pictures of
I've taken cats from shelters.
all of the dogs and cats. If you wanna see them, fresh off the press.
Problem with the feral cats was they run off again. Even after
They run to the neighbors, so I don't care, I'll take them, as long as I don't have to pay again.
Bill, you got all kinds of,
I have a cat already.
well, what's wrong with having 2,
I had 2.
3?
He keeps the poor cat outside because the cat might scratch his furniture.
It did scratch my furniture.
Well, I'm on Phil's page on that, my dogs are outside, my cats are outside.
Let's get back to the budget, please.
Well, you're the one that's straight.
One thing I noticed that could be saved is printing in black and white instead of color, cause I see a lot of things coming from the animal shelter in color, which is almost 3 times the cost of printing in black and white. You just set your default settings to black and white and it saves a lot of money right there.
save our budgets overall, but
No,
when it's 3 times the cost.
We'll take a nickel, we'll take a dime.
Isn't the animal count way up from what it was a couple years ago too?
well, as far as dogs or cats,
I don't remember, but I'm sure someone will point out to me I'm wrong, but I only remember like being 50 some animals total when I was on that committee.
well,
Between
today
dogs and cats.
she's got 55 cats and 12 dogs.
Where do you put 55 cats in there?
That's why they need an addition.
No, stop taking them all in.
Well, you know, on some of these things, the people, and again, she can't release them because they haven't been surrendered. So if she goes out like this one thing with the animals starving and all that stuff, she takes them in, and the owners are going to trial or to jail or in the hospital or whatever. They're not her dogs or her cats, so she has to take care of them until either the owner surrenders them, or gets out and pays all the expenses to get them.
And there's no family members that'll take those animals.
They go through all that to begin with. And they have some of this, well, some of,
It just seems like your total number of animals are up, which is gonna drive your expenses up.
Yep.
And it's also gonna create the need for extra people.
Do they still do where they foster the animals out too?
there's some foster ones, but you can't foster a lot of them. And again, remember, she's got all the stuff here. She went through all of these humane officers' complaint, the citations, the quarantine stuff, and like I say, I got pictures of most of the animals and everything. You can see the detail right here. So she does a lot of work trying to keep up with all the stuff, but it's like, here's one for humane officer complaint tracking. Dogs are being cared for by owner's friend that lives at the same residence. Dog was removed from the house by a friend of the owner. Again, Dawn can't just go in there, and brought to the Rusk County Animal Shelter. Working with owners to ensure they have adequate shelter, food and water for dogs when they are outside. Well, this was a horse thing with a wound, that's not things like that. You know, it's continuous. I mean, this is like it was stated the girlfriend had been caring for the dogs and cats, but no longer lives at the residence. She's been unable to find them homes and has no money. The dogs and cats have been alone in the house for several weeks. The eviction notice from the landlord has been served. I checked on all the animals and they are in good body condition, bright, alert, and responsive. I was able to connect with the girlfriend's parents, and they went into the house and with the girlfriend's permission to get the dogs and cats. But, I mean, it's constant stuff like this. So and with the economy and the high inflation and everything else, people are dumping their animals and stuff like that too. So, which doesn't help us out. But let's get back to the budget.
Back to the budget, let's stay focused. I don't know if we do anything more with this budget, where it is now. Yeah, it's pretty tight now, isn't it?
I mean, the only thing I would say is, you know, that full-time position is still in this budget here. And if the city's not gonna pay for it, I mean, are we willing to pay more than the 60%?
For budget purposes, I think it has to stay in there, or you're gonna be looking for a new animal shelter director and humane officer. She's at the end, she's burned out. She can't keep doing both of these jobs and getting no help and then being constantly attacked. And the thing with the city, that depends on a lot of other things too.
thought that second position was never fully approved, or it was approved with the caveat the city had to agree to it. Oh, what's that?
Yeah, it did not pass the county board the second time because the city wouldn't fund the 40%.
Well, then it shouldn't be in there.
I think the first time it passed the county board though, we were told the city has no choice, they will pay this.
No, because the city led us to believe that they would put it in the budget for 2025. That's what we were led to believe, that we were doing this out of the budget cycle, put it in the budget.
So that doesn't mean that they can't be forced to pay more than 60,000, because that is the agreement.
Do we
We
wanna,
have a- we
do
have-
we wanna go down the path of starting to, anything the city doesn't pick up, we just pick up? Like if we want something extra, it's like, okay, we're just gonna pay extra.
I don't think,
We're already down that path
yeah,
for
we're
decades.
with,
And that's my point, we're already down that path, why are we gonna continue on down
we
that?
don't wanna,
I mean, if we don't think that's the right path, yeah.
sell all the joint buildings, you're getting into a whole new thing now, so let's stay focused on this. I say leave it the way it is, I mean, if you added the 35.5 in, you leave it at 60,000, but the city cannot just pick and choose what they wanna pay.
But they are though, Terry.
Well,
That's the point
not
here.
necessarily, that's what they're saying in the budget.
Right, and are you gonna guarantee the other half of it then?
Well, maybe we take them to court.
Good luck.
I have 2 new agreements from the city for new agreements with them. And we haven't, we're going to go through and redline it, and another whole. So it's up to the committee what they wanna do.
Have you had, who's had the meetings with the city regarding their percentage?
They just went ahead and did it.
Well, in the past,
They were sent
chair
our
from the
original
animal
budget.
shelter and administrator, coordinator at that time, had a meeting with the city to find out when we raised licenses and raised the wages for the part-time employees and things like that. I remember that and got their permission, so my suggestion is you sit down with them and find out if they're willing to, I think you need to have a conversation with them.
Well, we are.
Because you're gonna have to get it figured out, because I'm not in favor of increasing this budget if they're not gonna pony up for their 40% of what it is.
It's up to you guys.
So let's take it out, and if the city says they'll, agree to pay more, we'll put it back in.
But
It's already been approved by the county board for that additional position. It's not an additional position, it's half, going from half-time to full-time.
County board on the 60-40 split said we,
I think it was approved with the city.
I don't remember ever having something approved that says the county will pick up the extra.
I think there was a caveat to that, if I remember right, where they had to agree to it.
The one that passed, we were told, the city has no choice, they will do this, so it's not even we don't even need to talk to the city. The next meeting came out and said, oh, we talked to the city, and they said, that's not the case. And then it got shut down. It failed at county board.
No, the thing that was defeated at the county board was picking up the city's portion
So
for
why don't-
a half, well, for 7 months of the additional amount going to full-time. That's what was turned down, not the position or anything else.
But it had to be
Because it
budgeted for
wasn't in the
25.
budgeted,
It had to be budgeted for 25.
because it wasn't in the budget. And the city couldn't have done it, because we did, we approved it and it wasn't in the budget and it was coming out of contingency. City had wanted to, they could have done it. They were just doing the technicality. So we're putting in the budget for 2025. this one, if you're going to leave it at 60,000 for the city thing, then we gotta move on and show a larger portion coming out of the levy then.
Bottom line is, are we gonna spend more than 90?
We have over $1 million that we need to get cut out of all of the budgets yet combined. So, I mean, we can revisit it.
And if there's a technicality that the board voted on, and I don't think it was presented to the board that continuing to go forward, that the county would pick up the extra budget. That was not how it was presented. So if the board votes on something, it has to be presented correctly.
Meeting wasn't that long ago, a couple months ago.
It was presented correctly.
I don't remember, but I remember there was a twist to or something in the discussion.
Then it came back, you know,
It says that you,
What did the board?
what you passed, changing it from a part-time to a full-time position with the expectation, like Phil said, that it would still be a 60-40 split.
Correct.
And then when we went back to the board the following month, when the city said that they wouldn't fund it, and we asked for the funds to come out of contingency, the board said, no, it's a 60-40 split.
Well,
But it didn't.
the board approved paying our additional amount out of contingency. But when we went back the last time, it was, is the board willing to pick up the city's portion for 7 months of the additional amount? That was the plan.
contingency was for last year's budgetary purposes, based on, the position was still voted with the expectation that it was a 60-40 split. That was not presented any differently.
It was
It was
coming out of
presented, it was,
contingency for this year, 2024.
yeah, for this year's budget,
Right.
but it was not presented that next year, the county would pay for the extra, and we would
No,
get rid
it
of
was going to go into the
Of course
budget,
not.
because the city
As a
was going to pay for it, that was
60-40
pretty clearly.
as a 60-40 split.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's not a 60-40 split.
Well, we don't know that yet.
But it's how we know that,
No.
how can we plan for that?
The city's only paying for 60 now. That's it. That's plain and simple telling us, that's all they're doing.
There has to be some changes in the agreement.
Which means we end up paying the rest.
Well, I don't think any of that is gonna get fixed, in my opinion, before this budget is
No.
settled.
No.
Well,
We might as well
what if
move on, we're not gonna fix that.
Instead of a full-time person, what if we added more hours for part-time people? What would something like that do for her?
So, well, even just delete out the health, it's really the health insurance.
Exactly, right, so
And
could we,
WRS,
Right.
so the shelter assistance, so we would take out those two numbers in. So, 26,283.92.
does that get us down to the 90 Jim was talking about?
I remember we talked about part-time back at the very beginning of this conversation. I was told that we're gonna get people hired. We had to have full-time.
She needs somebody there to help her out. Part-time people are only there part-time.
That's how you schedule. How
Scheduling
business to
doesn't help.
survive on part-time people.
Yeah, scheduling part-time people, you can rotate as much as you want to. You're still gonna end up with one person there a lot of the time. So if she's gotta go out and get a dog, then you gotta shut down the shelter. Then people call in, why is no one answering the phone at 1 o'clock in the
You
afternoon?
shut down the shelter, somebody's still there.
No, they leave, their hours are 8 to 2. They're limited in the amount of hours they can put in.
You can't, on part-time.
Yes,
Right, but you can stagger a person's hours.
they already are. There's two part-time people there, Tuesday through Thursday with her. Monday and Friday, there's one part-time person.
Right, but if you got rid of the benefits and you put another part-time person out there, what would that do for you?
Part-time people don't have any benefits.
My point exactly.
That's what Jim is saying, so if we cut having a full-time person, that saves, what is that, Sky, 23,000?
26,283.92.
So $26,000.
The city share would still be like just over 73,000.
The what, Judy?
It would be just over 73,000 would be the city's share.
Okay.
So,
It'd still be over that 60,000.
I think anything that goes over the 60-40 split has to go with full board.
it's gotta be approved by the animal control board first.
Well, right, you make a recommendation to the full board.
Either way, let's move on. We can sit here and discuss this a little things. Who's work, or that, these issues. Administration.
Okay, hang on, it's opening. Alright, so Ashley and I cut our copies prints by 500. We cut our office supplies from 1,500 to 1,000. Our EAP membership fees, so this is what pays for real living, we reduced from 20,000 to 10,000. That will cover strictly our subscription to Real Living, so there will be no extra funds in this line to provide additional EAP services above and beyond our basic subscription. For example, if we were to have a crisis in this county, like if a sheriff deputy was killed in the line of duty, there would be no money in the budget to pay for on-site crisis counseling for that. Wellness incentives, we cut from 9,600 to 5,000. Retirement gifts, fitness memberships, or like yoga class reimbursements come from this line. And since 2022, every year we have also done some kind of an employee morale event or gift card or sweatshirt or something like that that has been charged to this line. Advertising expense, HR has been primarily advertising online with a lot less print advertisements, so we cut that in half. And then just a note that the health insurance did drop, so we had already had significant cuts to our budget, and that was one of the bigger cuts because Ashley does not take our health insurance. So our 2024 appropriation was $307,228. Our original levy ask was $293,805 for a total reduction of $13,423. So as far as further cuts from this budget, obviously we don't recommend any further cuts. Legal fees line is used to pay Von Briesen, which is our employment attorney, and all other county-related employment law issues. The contracted services line, which is the 216 line, that includes fees paid to Carlson Detman for wage grid maintenance, the DOJ for new employee background checks, life insurance fees, unemployment management, and NeoGov. So if you were to make further cuts, you would be cutting one of those things.
questions on this one? Nothing heard, let's move on. Got anything?
Yeah, so they highlighted in blue, but, so wherever you see these over here, that line, so they cut $200 from their transcript fees, 2,000 from, jury bailiff.
Oh.
Two, well, it went from 2,000 to 10,000.
So it's 12.
It was 12.
Yeah, it was 12, that's the, what it, the amount it was, yeah. And then 500 from their postage.
But is that number accurate when we had a 23 total of 13? See, that's what I don't wanna get into.
But
It depends on how many trials and, yeah,
Okay.
they have for.
But then you had 3,000, okay. Gotcha.
And we also increased those bailiff wages too, so.
Well, hopefully we won't have any big trials, 'cause that means something bad happens, open at the bail.
they also did increase, the state fines revenue by 1,000. I guess it's just based on historic.
They really gave themselves a lot of cushion before, and they're hoping that it can. Well, they pulled in what? 13,000 the first 6 months, but who knows?
So that's what circuit court did.
So what do we gain there?
Not much, yeah.
How many positions are in that department? No.
It's
What's,
five.
what's on this one?
Public.
There's interviews next week for, to fill one of the
Well, one
positions.
just moved out of there, right? The fourth
Yeah,
one?
one's full-time at 31 hours a week. No, she moved to HHS.
They still need a 31-hour a week position there?
Lori would argue yes, because that position goes after delinquencies, I believe.
Right.
But just of note, at 31 hours, they get full-time benefits.
31?
Really over 29, was it 29? 29 even?
Yeah.
I mean, there are other departments that are asking for extra help right now, so maybe there'd be the availability to hire somebody for 38.75. Since we're already paying for the full-time benefits and then give that support to, for 1 day a week to another department, but that's something that personnel should probably make the decision on. Or, is there a personnel?
Personnel would have done this already, we'd already.
We'll see over the agenda.
I second that.
We got a motion and a second. Personnel would have done something.
We didn't have to have 4 meetings a month or whatever the hell we've been having lately, we're still be shred. We could actually get something done on a normal agenda.
You're as efficient our second
Where have you
month
been all day?
of, second month of budget meetings, and we still got a couple minutes to cut.
So, do we wanna move on?
Yeah,
So I think you just lost all your traction.
credibility there.
Okay, so,
I slipped up the mudslide.
Well, we already looked at county board and county clerk. We didn't send it to Rich to ask him to make cuts, cause it would really be asking him to take a pay cut, which we didn't wanna touch wages, so.
Who?
Rich Summerfield.
Why not?
Why not?
Send it to him, see what he comes up with.
Just don't say anything, just say.
Just send it to him like it's just a mass email that went out, see what he bites.
A blind copy so that he doesn't know nobody else is on it.
one thing I wanna point out about DA is, we had made some cuts to that budget last time, and, they actually made even more cuts to some of those line items. So. Oh, so they cut 500 from service fees, 250 from special prosecutions, 250 from other court fees, 1,500 from witness fees, 500 from postage, and 1,500 from office supplies.
Every little bit helps.
Sale of copies, they increased that $1,000, but I,
Crystal talked to us about that.
did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
They can charge for something that they hadn't previously been charging for, right? Ashley, isn't that what she? Yep. So.
Crime victim witness coordinator, they cut office supplies from 400 to 100. And then RRYP, Rusk Restorative Youth Program. I think postage, we had already cut that. Copies, they cut cut $50. Supplies, they cut from $225 to $50. And mileage, they cut from 500 to 100. And then, resources, they cut down $25. So.
The other thing we could look at in this budget yet too is cutting hours. It's a part-time position, so it, you know, there's some other hours worked by this person in other budgets too, so.
Well, and then just something of note on the participant fees, we had talked to Crystal about this too. Budgeting 1,500, but at the 6-month mark had only taken in $175. That's quite the disconnect there.
The enrollment is down, there's not very many participants.
What do you mean enrollment's down?
For ROIP.
Remember when he gives that report every month, it's like, you know, 1 participant or 2 in the program.
Yeah, he's down.
I do think he mentioned now that there's a new municipal judge that he was hopeful that, enrollment would go back up.
He feels it'll come back up, it's just kind of in a slump right now. Nothing too great.
And how much this is like, is this whole thing levy?
DAs.
No, the RYP one.
Oh, ROIP mostly, there's a little bit, budgeted for transferring from intoxicated driver surcharge. But I believe that's one of the things Jeremy was freeing up in the HHS budget, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So,
And I think Jeremy had told me that our RYP is not mandated.
But this is something that says grant fund.
No.
Not this.
Not at all.
I think 4 hours of his time
Is put to drug court
put to
as
drug
cash
court
match.
but
So that's levy dollars going to pay those wages in the drug court as well. Well, you did make some changes to that one, right? But it's not levy anyway.
Yeah, it's not levy, but yeah, I don't know, Phil, if you wanted to kinda take the lead on that, or if you want me to. The tourism budget, I think, yeah.
Other than just adding the, part-time position, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so we hadn't been budgeting for the part-time, economic development tourism position. And so we're gonna start budgeting for that going forward into 2025. This year, we're gonna do a transfer from the economic development budget for economic development.
Or will, the wages will be pulled from that.
Yeah, so we had left over from our temporary worker, leaving, and we're not filling that position, we plan to keep her on through the end of the year. And, she decided not to, cause with school and stuff, it's gonna be pretty full for her, so we're gonna pull the rest out of there to get us through the end of the year. And then starting next year, we'll have budgeted for that part-time position. It just hadn't been filled in, I don't know how long it hasn't been filled in, since
Over a year, yeah.
over a year. But that all comes out of the mining funds. That's the only levy on that.
That's everything.
Since I said mining funds instead of levy, it was easy.
Since the ambulance goes over the levy, we didn't tell him to work on that.
so, the emergency management, communications was cut 1,000, postage was cut $45 down to $5. Copies were cut $50. Office supplies was cut $50. Convention and dues was
We
cut
don't find the nickels and dimes for the mining.
cut 100, and then each of travel and training were cut down $200 each. So,
Is it stamped 64 cents then? How much is it? And this, he's got 64 cents for,
73.
he's got 64 for postage for the first 6 months, so I just assumed maybe he'd be able to.
Well, we get a discount,
we get a discount on our postage.
So, oh, okay, so there you go.
but
Is that one
then we have fees associated with the postage machine, so it actually ends up costing us more.
Really?
But it's for convenience and because that postage machine will help charge it out to individual budgets. Versus if,
And otherwise you gotta buy stamps, right? That's the one that you slide through and
yeah.
that's the,
Otherwise, we have everybody going to the post office to mail things or buying stamps.
somebody loses some stamps.
Yeah, and then charging it to whichever budget, like Health and Human Services, they could be charging it, at one mail run, be charging 10 different accounts depending on what they're mailing out, child support, economic support, ADRC, public health, children and family. Yeah, or all of the invoices related, you could have 20 invoices a day from the post office being entered in. So,
Right. Anything there? Move on. Finance.
There's where we can really.
well, I tried, but
So.
budgeting software that was in for, 2025, so that was 21,440. And I reduced our continuing education by about $500, trying to be conscious of, honestly, like taking my personal vehicle and getting that 30 cents per mile rather than charging 67 cents per mile using a county car. I mean, that makes a big difference when you're going to conferences that are.
But that stays in, fleet money anyways.
Well, it does, but when it hits my budget.
One of
it's
these days when
difference
she has a
between
flat
30
tire
cents and
failure,
67 cents.
So
She has a flat tire failure, you're going to change it for her.
So, it kind of defeats our whole purpose of we're trying to encourage people to use the county vehicles.
Well, it still
Maybe we need
costs
to,
us more than.
maybe we need to decrease it a little bit more.
Really? It still costs more than 30 cents per mile to operate the fleet. So, I don't know, I was trying to cut my budget, so that was my task here.
You get no gratitude for it.
Yeah, right?
Nothing from it.
That was the only things on this budget. And then what?
Was there anything else?
I appreciate your efforts, Jamie.
No, thank you, Jim. I mean, the rest of it, I really can't cut. We've got the audit in there, we've got our software that we use every day. The office supplies are for all three of us in the office. So. Postage is primarily mailing out W-2s and 1099s.
On a serious note though, don't take your personal vehicle if you, don't do it.
But I
Do
mean,
it for
it does
you,
say-
don't do it
Yeah.
for the county.
But-
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Can't you go electronic with W-2s and 1099s?
We do make them, well, not the 1099s, the W-2s we can, but we still typically just mail them out as well, because not everybody,
Pays attention.
yeah, or goes into, and everybody would have to consent to online W-2s,
Oh, yeah.
so,
For those who can't get into my pay.
and, former employees, just. Yeah, but the 1099s would have to still be mailed. So, yeah, that's the prime, yeah. Otherwise, we mail out maybe 2 or 3 things a month. So that's the only thing on that budget. I had some other, well, I just made some notes, let me just open my notes real quick. Okay, so for budgets that use levy, I, was not able to cut the 15% in any of them. The insurance budget does have levy, but the only way to really cut that levy is to increase our deductibles, and that could end up costing us more in the long run, and not all of the insurance stays within that insurance budget. Like, for example, the vehicle insurance is charged out to wherever the vehicles are, so if they're in the fleet, then, so that insurance is then carried in the fleet, and if we increase our auto deductible to say $5,000 and we have a few deer hits, that's really gonna hurt our county car fund. The cost allocations, right now, we don't have our actual numbers from our cost audit yet. He was just here last week performing the audit. It'll probably be a couple weeks yet before we have our preliminary numbers to use for that, so what's in there right now is just based on last year. The sales tax is a levy offset, but I already increased that by $70,000. So I'd like to take a conservative approach and not increase that anymore. The clinic buildings is in there, which is actually a levy offset because of the rent coming in for the Lake Avenue clinic building, but if we were to sell or rent out, say, the old Marshfield Clinic building, that could decrease the levy impact, or, provide more income coming in. The equipment fund, I did not decrease that. The equipment fund is basically like a contingency fund for equipment purchases. Well, if we're asking departments to cut their budgets by 15%, and then they need an emergency piece of equipment, where's that money gonna come from if we're also cutting the funds that we would put into the equipment fund? And contingency, I only have $200,000 in there right now, and that's really just for general contingency purposes. And again, if we're asking departments to cut 15% out of their budgets, I don't think that cutting contingency. What?
Is that all?
Oh, sorry, 718. Cutting contingency is probably not a good idea. If anything, we might need more in contingency just because departments aren't gonna have that cushion in their budgets that they previously had.
They're gonna stick to their budgets though.
I sure hope so, but, you know, things come up and that's, contingency is for unforeseen circumstances and so, and you know, typically we budget in contingency for wage increases and health insurance cost increases. Fortunately, we did already increase the individual budgets for the health insurance increases, but if there's anything for potential wage increases for general employees, that would also have to be put into contingency, so. Those are all of my levy budgets in a nutshell. Alright.
Just let me know, I'll bring the stick.
Let you know, you gotta be monitoring it, I don't have time for that.
I think that's an excellent idea, we should put Phil in charge when I'm.
If I can get access to the budgets as they progress.
You can run reports in my viewpoint.
So I
Once a month, you can check in on every committee and make sure that.
Yeah, the budget projections are done every month and those are on the C drive, but there's,
Those are the long,
well, there are a couple different ones that we have.
I just hope they can access the spreadsheet though, cause I would be able to edit them and also that there's information about employees' wages and stuff that I want to be able to see.
You can always run a budget to actual report, I do.
You'll have to show me where that, I can get that done. Cause last year that was part of the discussion about adding this other software.
Well, the software wouldn't do anything for the current
Right, but
monthly.
if we're putting what we're budgeting in there, I can't see any of that. Right? I can see next year's budgets.
Well, not, the ones that emailed out, I emailed you.
Right, but I don't have the changes as changes are
Oh,
made.
right.
I don't progressively have the changes being made.
Right.
You have to make notes for the meeting minutes.
I try, but it's hard to keep up.
Okay, so the next budget is HHS. And I highlighted the tabs that had changes made that affected levy. Cause they made some changes that affected other budgets as well.